If you don't want to get pulled over on your motorcycle, you might want to avoid a 1000cc leader bike. No matter how you slice it, a leader bike is designed for high-performance motorcycle racing. And not only are they designed for racing, they're the top echelon of motorcycle performance. Modern-day leader bikes are making damn near 200 horsepower across the board, so it's almost impossible to ride them without breaking the law. They do 90 miles an hour in first gear. It's going to take significantly more work on the part of the rider to not speed on a leader bike than it will to speed on a smaller bike with a more usable power band. And even if you manage to keep your Gixxer Thou within the confines of the law, these bikes are a prime target for police officers trying to meet their monthly quota. In the DFW Metroplex area, for example, there's actually a task force designed to literally crack down on street racers, and they profile sport bikes, particularly leader bikes. Police officers may be more inclined to suspect a sport bike rider of speeding or reckless riding simply because the bike's design and intended use case implies that it can. The way leader bikes are perceived by cops make them a prime target. And even if you're in the 1% of leader bike owners who manage to ride conservatively all the time, you're still going to be lumped into the generalized stereotype of a sport bike squid. Because why would someone spend over 15 grand on a leader bike and they're only going to use a small fraction of the power that's available? I paid for the Speedo, I'm going to use the whole Speedo. Well, we all know the answer to this, obviously. It's hubris and bragging rights. But in the eyes of the law, it's kind of assumed that if you clock a leader bike on the street, they're going to be speeding at any moment, even a little bit. They're likely to speed, highway roll race with their buddies, or power wheelie on command. So even if you're a sensible and cautious rider, the general perception of leader bikes can work against you and make you a prime target. And the other thing about leader bikes is you don't even feel like you're speeding. 80 miles per hour on a 1000cc motorcycle feels like 35 miles per hour on a Ninja 400. And while it is barely possible to ride a leader bike on the street within the legal limits of speed most of the time, smaller displacement sport bikes are just as easily targeted by police for reasons beyond speed. Small displacement sport bikes like 600s or even some beginner bikes can still attract negative attention. Sport bike riders often have squidded out their bikes with super loud exhaust, deleted mirrors, and turn signals and a tucked license plate. These common mods make them easy targets to be pulled over. Smaller displacement sport bikes are often ridden by younger riders, and younger riders are known to make poor decisions and can lead to unwanted attention by the police. Even if you're not particularly speeding, the rapid acceleration of a sport bike paired with a loud exhaust from a high-revving engine can make it appear as if you're going a lot faster than you are. If you guys remember the ZX4RR we did back in 2023, yeah, it sounded way louder than it was going, even if I was speeding just a teensy bit. And this perception of speed or even the attention that it draws can increase your likelihood of getting pulled over. Something you may not have considered as law-abiding motorcyclists is sport bikes are often pulled over by the police because they're commonly stolen motorcycles. So the combination of a loud, high-revving sport bike with a potentially younger or more reckless rider, the high likelihood of not particularly legal mods, and the chance that your bike could be perceived as stolen all contribute to the fact that sport bikes in general, regardless of the displacement, can make them more susceptible to traffic stops. Another point I wanted to make is that more often than not, sport bike riders will have a litany of charges that could be levied against them when they get pulled over. If their registration is expired, if they don't have anything on their license that indicates they can operate a motorcycle legally, like an M endorsement here in the United States, maybe they're not carrying the proper amount of insurance. There's all kinds of reasons to get stopped, and a lot of cops look at sport bikes because they know they can rack up a ton of tickets. But I just had to make the distinction between leader bikes and other sport bikes because I wanted you all 600 squids to know that you're not in the free and clear just because you're not on a leader bike. If you're looking for attention from highway patrol, ride a Ducati. I don't know that this is factually true, but I imagine the ratio of registered Ducatis and ticketed Ducatis has to be higher than any other motorcycle on the road, except maybe GSXRs. But again, this is speculation on my part. When you think about it, a lot of people buy Ducatis because of their bespoke race-bred DNA or for their exotic, eye-catching sensory allure. Unfortunately, the same things that make your spicy red meatballs so mouthwatering to your buddies at bike night also attracts attention from the police on the road. Ducatis are typically bright red with a fierce and aggressive exhaust tone. I feel like the loudest motorcycles I've ever ridden have all been Ducatis. I don't even know how they get their stock bikes to sound so loud and get away with it. But combine that with the exotic, aesthetically refined bodywork and signature red, which catches the eye, and your bike just says, hey, look at me. Ducatis, being derived from their championship-winning race machines, are also known for their power, so even if you're riding a more low-key, road-going model like a Super Sport 950, the average police officer probably can't tell the difference between that and a Panigale V4. They just see fully faired red Ducati and turn their lights on behind you. Any true Ducatista is going to have plenty of farkles on their bike too, and a lot of times these farkles are just another reason for a cop to pull you over if they're having a bad day. The same can be said for Aprilia or even BMWs, but if a cop knows even a little bit about bikes, they know riders aren't buying these exotic European machines to go slow. And sometimes they'll light you up just because they want to take a closer look at your beautiful spicy meatball of a motorcycle. Super customized motorcycles are easy targets to be pulled over as well. Whether they be cursed cafe racers or wretched custom choppers, fully custom bikes range from being purposefully unrideable or painfully ill-suited for road use. A custom motorcycle is typically missing key DOT-required equipment that makes them a layup for a police officer trying to make an example out of you. Whether they be cafe racers, choppers, bobbers, or some weird Hayabusa scrambler, custom bikes are usually missing DOT-required turn indicators, mirrors, license plate lights, and maybe even a critical fastener or two. It's not uncommon for custom bikes to have questionable paperwork as well, whether they have salvage titles, no insurance, no registration. Custom bikes are usually built from the tattered remains of a motorcycle who lived a long and tragic life. So if a police officer sees a cafe racer on the road with non-working eBay turn signals and a rat's nest of wires hanging out the side, they might flag you down and be curious to see whether your bike is actually registered in your name, whether it's been inspected in states where it's required, or whether you're carrying the legally required insurance. Because if you bought your project bike for $300 and then spent the bare minimum in the cheapest on tackiest aftermarket Amazon parts, I can understand why you might be reluctant to take out an insurance policy on it. But hey, that's the law, my guy. When it comes to modifying your bikes, just use some common sense. And if you modify your bike too much, like covering your Hayabusa's plastics in shag carpet, you might get pulled over just so the police can tell you how damn cool your bike is.
Folks, I've given away over 53 motorcycles, valued at over $500,000 in my time doing this whole crazy YouTube rigmarole thing, and this Ninja 500 SE is the new kid on the block. Make sure you check out yamanoob.co and become a member for your best chance to win. You'll rack up your entries to win, and you can assign them towards giveaway bikes in the future, or you can hold on to them and then put them towards your favorite bike that we do later on. We've got another really awesome spicy bike coming later for this year, and next year we're going to be doing all the latest and greatest newest bikes, so make sure you're signed up and don't miss your chance.
Mini bikes are also just asking to get pulled over. Yeah, it might be damn near impossible to speed on a mini bike like a Grom or a Z125, but they've garnered a reputation as the machine of choice for low-stakes buffoonery. These small bikes might be lower stakes, but that doesn't mean they can't cause all sorts of havoc in town when 24 of them show up at once and take over an entire street. One of the biggest perceived threats from motorcycles to the police or government officials are big, unsanctioned group rides, and mini bike squads are pretty common to find in many cities. They'll vary in size, of course, but you get a good handful of young riders on Chinese Groms in one area, and you're asking for trouble. They'll be popping wheelies, jumping curbs, riding on the sidewalk, riding in the grass, and generally treating the city like it's a map from Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and they're trying to collect all the letters in skate, racking up that multiplier while grinding some curbs. And since mini bikes are typically inexpensive to purchase as well, a lot of riders have been known to forego insurance or properly register their bikes. Knowing this gives police that much more incentive to pull you over on a mini bike. Similarly, riding a non-street legal mini bike like a pit bike or even a Suron on the street gives law enforcement just cause to pull you over. While one would hope there's a better use of department resources than to hassle young riders on mini bikes on the street, the growing popularity of chaotic mini bike group rides and all the rambunctious behavior that happens during them have definitely got mini bikes on the radar, so many more police officers will find you in the US. And it may come as a bit of a surprise to some street riders, but in certain off-road areas and in parts of the US, off-road and adventure riders can be pulled over by Forest Service or DNR to check for spark arresters in your exhaust. This is not unfounded by any means, as massive and destructive wildfires have become alarmingly common in the last few years. A spark arrestor is a crucial component in an off-road motorcycle exhaust to prevent accidental and unintended fire in natural areas. On federal lands like national forests and BLM areas, it is explicitly stated that a spark arrestor are required in all off-road vehicles to prevent risk of wildfires. A spark arrestor is part of the exhaust muffler that catches any sparks to could potentially be expelled to ignite dry vegetation. A lot of state-controlled areas in states like California, Arizona, and Colorado have similar laws. So a dirt bike, dual sport, or adventure bike can be pulled over in these areas to make sure they're in compliance with these regulations. And similarly, dual sport bikes or trail bikes with street legal or supermoto conversions may be pulled over on the street as well, just to confirm that they are in fact meeting DOT requirements and have proper registration and insurance. If you haven't gathered by now, police really want to make sure that all vehicles on the street are legally permitted to be there and carry necessary insurance. So if to the layperson your bike looks like it might be for off-road use only, cop might flag you down to make sure everything is actually in compliance. You see this a lot in areas that have problems with teenage dirt bike wheelie boys. Cops will kind of make a point of stopping dual sport bikes just to make sure everything is legit and in compliance with laws, simply because they look like dirt bikes to the average person. And the last motorcycle that's going to get you pulled over is an obnoxiously loud, garish Harley Davidson. Typically, according to what I've experienced on two wheels, cops generally love Harley riders. It wouldn't be such a stretch to say many of them may be Harley riders themselves. But it is also the unfortunate truth that a lot of accidents and even fatalities on motorcycles are due to Harley riders who drink alcohol and are not wearing helmets or proper gear. So in areas that have seen multiple incidents involving Harley Davidsons where alcohol has been a factor, bikes from HD are more likely to get pulled over. And just like sport bikes or exotic European bikes, the more flashy and loud and ostentatious a Harley Davidson is, the more likely they are to receive unwanted attention from the police. If a group of straight-piped Harleys have been bothering certain neighborhoods with excessive noise, they're also more likely to be on the police department's radars. A lot of Harley riders have that tough guy outlaw mentality, and given the fact that they don't like to get unwanted attention that sport bike riders do, they often feel like they can get away with a lot more. In addition to the instances of accidents or fatalities involving HD riders, I've found that as time goes on, more local areas are starting to gentrify in an attempt to attract a more high-end clientele to patronize businesses or buy homes. And so big, loud Harley Davidsons start to be targeted more and more. But what do you guys think? Are certain bikes really targeted more than others? How often have you been pulled over on your bike? I'm curious to hear from all of you, as this data isn't easily available when it comes to cars. This took a lot of digging and hearing stories and anecdotes from riders in different parts of the country, as well as my own experience. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. I will see you all later. Fact: a single strand of spaghetti is called a spaghetto. Spaghetti is the plural form, while spaghetto refers to one piece of the pasta. Mamma mia. Goodbye.
Keep watching Yummy Noob.